The Galactic Integration Base on Sector 7 had seen hundreds of species pass through its sterile corridors. Tall, short, scaled, furred, crystalline, the universe offered infinite variety. But humans? Humans were an anomaly wrapped in contradiction. Iris had been assigned to the Xenobiology Wing 3 cycles ago, working alongside a clutch of Rexian cubs. The Rexians were a proud warrior race, standing nearly 9 feet tall when fully grown, with armored hides that could deflect plasma fire and claws that could tear through reinforced steel. Their cubs, though smaller at 6 feet, were still formidable by most species' standards. But not by human standards. The other species on the base had learned quickly. Humans didn't see threats the way everyone else did. Where a Rexian parent would teach their cub to assess danger and retreat from superior force, humans seemed to have a broken survival instinct. They saw vulnerable things, cubs, pups, hatchlings, juveniles of any species, and something in their neurochemistry misfired catastrophically. They called it cuteness aggression. Koa had been the first to notice. The young Rexian, barely into his second cycle, had watched Iris with suspicious golden eyes during those first few days. She was so small, this human. Soft-skinned, fragile-boned, with none of the natural weapons his people possessed. When she'd first entered the xenobiology lab and seen the clutch of Rexian cubs, her face had transformed. "Oh my God," she'd whispered, her voice breaking. "You're all so precious." The cubs had exchanged confused glances. Precious? They were Rexians. Future warriors. Apex predators from a death world where the gravity alone would crush most species. But Iris hadn't gotten the memo. Within a week, she'd somehow convinced the military commander to upgrade the cubs' quarters. Within 2 weeks, she'd redirected supplies meant for hull repairs to create what she called an enrichment area with climbing structures and puzzle feeders. When the supply officer protested, Iris had simply stared at him with those unsettling human eyes forward-facing, predatory, yet somehow pleading, and said, "They're babies." The supplies were approved. Koa had been the most resistant. He didn't need a human fussing over him. He was strong, capable, preparing for his warrior trials. But Iris had a way of wearing down defenses that had nothing to do with weapons. She'd learned their language, their customs. She'd watched Koa practice his combat forms and offered genuine praise that didn't feel condescending. She'd stayed late countless nights teaching them about Earth biology, showing them pictures of creatures from her world, tiny, vulnerable things that somehow survived on a planet that sounded nightmarishly hostile. "See this?" She'd pulled up an image of something called a baby seal. Polar bears hunt these. Polar bears are 1,200-pound apex predators. But you know what humans do when we see baby seals? Flee, Koa had guessed. We'd pass international laws to protect them. Iris had smiled that strange human smile. We're very stupid about cute things. The cubs had learned that humans were stupid about a lot of things, actually. Stupid brave. Stupid loyal. Stupid protective. It happened on a routine day. Iris had been helping Koa calibrate some equipment when the coughing started. At first, it seemed minor humans were always making odd biological noises. But then Iris had turned away, covering her mouth, and when she lowered her hand, there was blood. Not much, just a few red droplets against her pale palm. But Koa saw it, and something ancient in his predator brain recognized the truth. His human was injured, bleeding, vulnerable. He didn't think. He simply roared, "Medic!" The word learned from Iris herself during their emergency protocol training tore from his throat with enough force to rattle the equipment. The other cubs took up the cry immediately, their voices joining in a cacophony that shook the entire wing. Within seconds, alarms blared. Security teams mobilized. The base commander himself was racing toward the xenobiology lab because when Rexian cubs screamed for help, you listened. The medical team arrived to find Iris sitting on the floor, looking bewildered, while 6 Rexian cubs formed a protective circle around her. Koa stood directly in front, claws extended, daring anyone to approach his human without proper credentials. "I'm fine," Iris kept saying. "It's just I've had this cough for a few days. It's probably just a respiratory infection. Humans get them all the time." The base doctor, a Trilaxian with 4 arms and exceptional bedside manner, pushed past. Koa with professional efficiency. "Respiratory infection? You've been coughing blood and continued working?" "It's not that much blood," Iris protested weakly. Koa growled. The doctor worked faster. The diagnosis came within the hour. A severe bacterial infection that had escalated because Iris, in typical human fashion, had ignored it. She'd been prioritizing the cubs' needs over her own health, working through fever and fatigue because they needed her. Commander Zarth stood in the medical bay afterward, looking at the reports with disbelief. She was working with a 39-degree fever? Celsius, the doctor confirmed. That's 102 Fahrenheit. For humans, that's significant, and she said nothing? Apparently, humans have a cultural tendency to power through illness. The doctor's tone suggested profound disapproval, especially when they perceive others as depending on them. Outside the medical bay, the cubs maintained their vigil. Koa refused to leave, and where Koa stayed, the others followed. They'd brought materials from the lab, setting up what appeared to be a nest of blankets and equipment around the doorway. When Iris was finally cleared to leave, pumped full of antibiotics and strictly ordered to rest, she found her self-appointed guardians waiting. "You called for a medic," she said softly to Koa. "You probably saved my life. That infection could have gotten much worse." Koa's golden eyes met hers steadily. "You taught us. You protect us always. We protect you." That's not Iris started, then stopped, because it was. That was exactly how it worked. The base learned something that day. Humans might be small, soft, and apparently allergic to self-preservation, but they inspired loyalty that transcended species. They saw cubs, any cubs, all cubs, and became irrationally, dangerously protective. And perhaps most remarkably, that instinct was contagious. Koa walked Iris back to her quarters that evening, the other cubs trailing behind. Tomorrow, he would make sure she rested. He would bring her food. He would monitor her temperature the way she taught him. Because she'd shown them what humanity meant. Not strength of claw or thickness of hide, but the stubborn, foolish courage to care for others before yourself. She'd coughed blood once. The cubs had roared. And the base had learned that when humans found something to protect, physics itself had to negotiate.